Will Mike Brown actually play a 10-man rotation? Is Mikal Bridges in line for a career season? Will Deuce McBride close out a big chunk of the Knicks games? It is time for Locked On Knicks Board Bets.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are locked on to the New York Knicks. My name is Gavin Schall. I am a New York City native. I'm a credentialed media member that's been covering the Knicks for nearly a decade, and I'm the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And this is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 whole days a week. So be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans and subscribing both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. That and leaving a 5-star review are the best ways you can help us to grow the show. And today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, guys, as promised, first of all, happy season day. Knicks play the Cavs tonight. That's incredibly exciting. And to celebrate, we have not one, but 2 supercharged episodes for you guys with me, XJ, and Kris Pursiainen. It is the full Locked On Knicks team together for the first time, and it is for a good reason. We are making board bets predictions that we'll check back in on at the end of the season in terms of just how good this Knicks team is ultimately going to be. This one is a little bit more player focused. We're making predictions centering around Josh Hart's minutes, how many threes Karl-Anthony Towns is going to take, how deep the Knicks rotation goes, a potential career season for Mikal Bridges, Deuce McBride closing games, whether or not he will close over 30 of them. We'll get into it all right now, right here on Locked On Knicks. All right, guys, as promised, for the first time ever, it is the full new Locked On Knicks crew. Myself, XJ, co-host of the Hot Hand Theory podcast, Kris Pursiainen. You can check out all of his work as an NBA beat reporter over at Clutch Points. Guys, happy to have all 3 of us here. This is a blast. I'd say welcome, but you've both been on a bunch of times. But welcome anyways as a threesome.
This is Kris is going to give that a big pause. I can tell by his face. But
I said nothing. I didn't say anything.
Yeah, YouTube listeners and audio listeners will have different interpretations of that.
We won't fill you in, pod listeners. If you're on YouTube, you have the great benefit of seeing Kris's expression when Gavin said, what a threesome. But no, I'm super excited to be on with both you and Kris, and especially for the topic that we have. It's going to be incredible.
This is our board bets episode. It's a little bit of a steal of your former employer's Claudio Casino. Shout out to our guy, Andrew Claudio. I may or may not have directly stolen the last question from him because I thought it was very well phrased. But I wanted to do this before the start of the regular season. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is I wrote 15 over-unders, and we are each going to be drafting 4 of them. We'll have one bonus one at the end. We'll have one that does not get talked about. But generally, they're on the board now. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going to talk over-under wins. We're going to talk net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, forced turnover potential for this team, minutes for Josh Hart, games closed for Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges points per game, Tyler Kolek, how many games is he going to play in this season? And finally, the Knicks seed and just how many games the Knicks will win both in the regular season and the playoffs this year. Kris.
What's up, y'all? This is cool to be here as a trio. And I am excited.
Why did you phrase it that way? All right, Kris,
Kris,
you
for this season.
Kris, you have the first pick, buddy. Which one of these are you feel the strongest about? I guess is the best way to phrase it.
That's an interesting way to phrase it, but I don't know if it's an accurate way to phrase it, in that I'm just as concerned about, and XJ's ears will perk up, trying to find like value in what you guys are. So I'm gonna overthink this a lot. But I will say I want to go with number 10 here. And I want to go with under.
Wow, that's a shot. You took the Deuce McBride one right before XJ could go. That's brutal. All right, well, make the case. So let me just read it out for everyone. The number 10 on this list, Deuce McBride closes, and my definition of closes was on the floor for the majority of the final 5 minutes of any game, over under 30 games. And sorry, you took under on that.
Yes, under.
All right, make the case.
The case is as follows. I'll give a 1-sentence shout to the other side, which is that Josh Hart's injury and Mitchell Robinson's injury proneness make this interesting. But I also think that exact logic is what's going to get most bettors into trouble on this line, because it almost makes so much sense that he'll go over. This is exactly where I fade the public. I'm going to go under, and the reason for it is simply because while Deuce McBride is a different player than Keon Ellis, Mike Brown not only had Keon Ellis gate out in Sacramento, but then, and I don't know if you guys caught this the way that I caught this, I tweeted about it in a very particular way to attract my friends out in Sacramento's attention. Mike Brown, when talking about how he'll go deep into his rotation, highlighted one name, and it was Keon Ellis. And he said, I would start him sometimes in Sacramento. So that is proof that I'll play literally anybody. And XJ, for those listening, is like kind of cracking up over here because he was someone who was very impassioned last season about whether it was for the Kings or anywhere, Keon Ellis having much more value than either the average fan or seemingly his average coach viewed him as having. Some bias, some preconceived notion about what's valuable and what's not was obstructing the optimization of the Sacramento Kings rotation. I think that's the most simple way that I could put it. And I can't say that Mike Brown is going to suddenly work past this blind spot. I think there are things that he's going to get out of members of this roster that are impressive, that are more than what the average coach would get, that are more than what Tom Thibodeau got out of that player. I also don't think he gets a Walt Frazier triple-double record tying season out of Josh Hart the way that Tom Thibodeau did. Like, there's pros and cons to every coach. No one coach is more about winning than another. That's what they're all trying to do. It's what gets them paid, right? With Mike Brown, I think he's going to get the most out of Mikal Bridges. I think he's going to get the most out of Gershon Yabusele and Towns as a kind of 2+ batteries that won't go near each other, or plus magnets that won't go near each other. Like, very similar kind of unique energy to them. I think he'll find a way to make it click. That said, I don't see Deuce McBride being, say, the NBA's sixth man of the year or closing a lot of these games over guys that I think he'll fall in love with, like an Ariel Hukporti when Mitchell Robinson is out, which I think we might start learning about Wednesday night.
Yeah, I also had the under on this, despite the fact that we now believe more so than a couple days ago that Mitch maybe won't be playing as much this season as we think. And the Knicks, like, whether there's a real injury right now or there's not a real injury right now, it's pretty clear the Knicks are going to be extremely, extremely conservative with him. And then all of a sudden, you would think nominally you're between Deuce and Josh Hart, but I have a sneaky feeling there will be Jordan Clarkson nights. To your point, there will be Ariel Hukporti nights. Maybe.
You want a coach to make adjustments? Watch this. Jordan Clarkson's made 5 threes tonight. He's closing the game over Deuce. Gershon Yabusele has 6 offensive rebounds and 5 made 3-pointers. That guy gets to close. Like, you want a coach that reads and reacts in real time, not just in offensive sets. This is going to be part of it, is not exactly knowing who's closing every night. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's worse. I am acknowledging the truth that it's different.
Yeah.
I'll just make a really quick comment on this, because Chris hit on all the notes. I've never rooted for someone to have a personal vendetta against someone else, but in my heart, my hope is that Mike Brown just had a personal vendetta against Keon Ellis and not like that archetype of player. And I think we'll find that out very soon. So I'm hoping it's like a Keon Ellis idiosyncratic situation as opposed to like guys like that. But I am very, 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 for this bet, concerned about Jordan Clarkson, and just concerned about Jordan Clarkson overall as a Knicks fan, to be honest with you. So I would have probably gone under on this as well.
All right, guys, we'll be back in just a sec. We know Josh Hart is going to play less minutes this year. The question is how much less? Find out in just a sec. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Monarch Money. Here's why Monarch Money is so incredibly cool. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties or investments, and you don't have the full picture, well, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Here are just some of the things I love about having Monarch Money. They help you maximize your investments, increase your savings rate, easily review your finances with your partner and or a financial advisor, and ultimately just keep a clear view of your financial health, both week to week and over the long term. For me, someone who has just an incredible amount of anxiety about doing this, going over my finances, it is just an incredible help to have it all in one place. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with our code LOCKEDONNBA. We also want to tell you about our good friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the ultimate place to get your tickets. And now that basketball season is officially here, you know that nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. So let's be real. Getting tickets can be just a total nightmare between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It is just so incredibly easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer your team on. And that's where Game Time comes in. The app gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I recently used Game Time because I was across the street from the Phoenix Mercury and Suns stadium. It changes names all the time, so I don't know what it currently is. But they were in the fourth quarter. They were playing my New York Liberty. I said, you know what if I just went right now? And I looked, and tickets were only $4. So I got in. It was incredible. I had the time of my life for just $4 and an exhilarating fourth quarter and overtime. Plus, I see exactly what my seat view looks like before I bought the tickets with their in-app view feature. That made it just even better. Their zone deals are also a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. XJ, you're up next. What's your pick?
Yeah, great. I am actually glad that Kris made that pick because it leaves me with my top of the board pick, one that I was so excited to grab. Actually, Kris gave a lot of great reasons why, indirectly, and that's Josh Hart over 28 and a half minutes per game. Josh Hart is not going to play less than 29 minutes per game. He's just not going to. I know people are worried about the injury. I'm not worried about Josh Hart's injury. When he gets back, he's going to play. The last time he's played under 29 minutes per game, actually under the 28 and a half that you have listed, was 2019-2020, if I'm not mistaken. He was 24 years old. This was quite a long time ago. And he went through a variety of different roles. He started, he hasn't started, he's come off the bench, been a sixth man, even maybe for some of that stretch, been a seventh man. Josh Hart is going to play a ton of minutes. They're going to scale back the minutes for a lot of the Knicks starters. There's 3 wings on the entire roster. I just don't see any way the Knicks go a whole season and Josh Hart, when he plays fewer than 28 and a half minutes. I just don't see it happening. And so to me, this was the biggest lock on the entire board. And so I'll happily take this with my number one pick.
We've gotten numbers from Mike Brown. He said 34. 34 is the magic number, right? For Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges. Why just those two guys? Well, who else? What other starters were playing, right? So I think it's worth noting that he didn't pick Jalen and Mikal for 34 minutes a game because he thinks they're tougher than the other 3 and they can handle it, or he thinks they're softer than the other 3 and they can't play anymore. It's the other 3 were out that night. So I think it's more about, all the starters he's trying to probably have around 34 minutes a game. If there's a starter that he's looking to have lead the lineup in average minutes, my best guess is it would either be Bridges, because of his offensive versatility. Can you be the guy in the corner with the starters versus the lead ball handler or the secondary ball handler with the second unit, or Karl-Anthony Towns, again, because 2 different roles, power forward and center. We'll see.
Yeah, I asked you guys before the show because I made these lines. Are any of these lines bad? And you were both quiet. This was a bad line by me. It should have been a little higher. You guys should have said something. XJ selfishly decided to keep it for a great first round pick. I think that is a pretty easy one. He was at 37 and a half minutes last year. That would be a lot to go down. And I want to say this was a remnant in my brain of the very short-lived Malcolm Brogdon era, where I was 100% convinced that, and maybe he would have, that Mike Brown was going to play 10 guys. That's spoilers for another question, another one we have coming up that I might pick right now. And in turn, like, it was going to be, I had a lot of difficulty getting Josh to 30 minutes and also just giving all the guards a respectable amount of minutes. If you go down to 9 in the rotation, then all of a sudden that becomes easy. In turn, my next pick, and I'm torn, but you know what? It's a snake draft, so I'm going to give myself 2 in a row here. So I'll be able to make both of these because I'm running this. Knicks healthy rotation over under 9.5 players. I am pretty comfortably taking the under. I think it's going to ultimately be a 9-man rotation. There will certainly be nights where Landry Shamet plays substantially, and it could just be someone dealing with a nagging injury, or Mike Brown just feels like that specific game, it's something that it calls for. But do I think Landry Shamet, like, my barometer for this, like, half the games where your top 9 are healthy, which maybe just won't be that many games all season, is Landry Shamet in the rotation, or on games where someone's injured, is there a different 10th guys, or Pacom Dadier, or Kevin McCullough, or Tyler Kolek added into rotation? I think it's ultimately going to be 9, and that 34-minute number you referenced, Chris, is kind of my main reasoning behind that. I just don't really see a way you get to 34 minutes for most of the starters if you're playing 10 players. So to me, it's math. I think it's probably 9. But you know what? He's talked a lot about Hukporti. He's talked a lot about how much he likes Shamet. XJ, do you disagree with my logic there?
If I'm being competitive here, I'm happy with this pick by you, Gavin, because I think
I agree. I think it's 10.
I think it's 10. I think it's 10, honestly. And I mean, just some of Mike Brown's comments, I think there's, you'll always hear some conflict among somebody's comments during the preseason before the season starts. They'll basically say like everything everyone wants to hear, and then you like kind of weigh it all out. It's like, well, you can't do all of those things. Some of those things are mutually exclusive. But I think really just looking at his history, he does like to play more guys. And I do think the minutes are going to come down regardless of what he says with what Kris mentioned about the actual number that he cited. I just think like at the end of the day, he's going to bring minutes down. He's going to want to see more different lineup configurations. He's going to use the regular season as a testing ground. I think he's just going to do that. And the way that he's able to do that, he has a bunch of guys who sort of have to play. When we're talking about a guy like Jordan Clarkson, unfortunately, that'd be somebody I wouldn't feel bad about him being out of the rotation, which I'm sure Knicks fans are going to be mad at me in the comments for saying that. Some people are excited about Jordan Clarkson. I'm not the biggest fan, obviously, but I think all these guys are going to play, and I think we're talking fully healthy. I don't imagine some of these guys in the kind of like 9th, 10th man being benched. So I really do think it's going to be 10 when they're all fully healthy.
Yeah, Chris, what's your intel on that? Or instinct, either or.
Yeah, I was gonna say I did nothing. But no, instinct. I think 10. I think this is a situation where Mike Brown already saying out loud, like some coaches will chase games. You know, he kind of. I saw that less as a shot at other coaches and more as very indicative of the fact that he equates unnecessary starter minutes with gambling losses. Which, like, I think the fact that his brain would even make that phrasing up in, like, maybe he just heard someone else say, maybe I'm reading way too deep into this. Personally, if someone says you're chasing games and just playing the starters, like, you chase a bad bet by doubling down on a worse bet. Like, that's typically how that goes. So I'm not saying that he's saying it's the worst thing in the world to play starters on necessary minutes, but it actively seems like something he tries to avoid. Like, I'm sure professional gamblers don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Every time they lose a bet, they just need to win more than they lose. Like, I do think there's something to what XJ was talking about with the comments he's made, more so like gleaning the tone off the top of them, listening to how he has this philosophy of leaving the second unit together, prompting him to start third stringers when a starter is out. What, instead of being like, oh, that's interesting, go a level deeper. Why does he do that? Why is that interesting? Well, it seems like he values the cohesiveness of the second unit, but he also should then value the cohesion of the starting unit. So it seems to me more about him thinking the starting unit is good enough to survive a couple minutes with a third stringer. And then by the time he can start staggering, he's riding a bike downhill. How does all that staggering happen? How do you get these different lineup combos? Not playing 7-8 guys. So I think 9 is obviously not those numbers. It's a different number. It's a bigger number, huge number even. But I do think 10 is where he's going to be looking at, because the kind of lack of hesitation to go with Huck Porty as his night one starter. Like Tibbs was playing Dottier in game 1 against Boston last year. He started Jericho Sims for the same reason, leaving the second unit together. Like we're gonna talk a lot over the course of the season about how different these coaches' philosophies are, but their principles are pretty much the damn same. They have the same principles. They just have different ways of enforcing them and executing on them. The first time Mike said, you kind of got to like let the game dictate what you do, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun online, because people don't know that he means it the same way Tom does, but he thinks 3 + 4 is 9, and in his world it is. And he thinks that Tom thinks 7 + 3 is 11. Like no one's right or wrong. It's all just your take. So I'm going to say definitely over on this.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I would be happy to be wrong on that one. I like the idea of a 10-man rotation, even post Brogdon. All right, let's see if my next one you guys also consider a bad pick. This one I felt a little Knicks pill just in the line that I made. Like I don't think this would be the FanDuel line. It was kind of relying on the fandom, and I think the fact that we're all excited about this team. But it was that I had the Knicks over under 1.5 seed in the Eastern Conference. And that is basically saying, are they going to be the 1 seed, or do you take the field? And it's just kind of a probability bet that, like, given that you would even the more optimistic people would say it's pretty 50-50 between them and Cleveland as the favorite, you would in turn take the field with injuries and stuff. I think we might have said we were going to leave that one for the end. So tell me if that's foul. But if that one's on the board, I would take that one next, just because I believe there's a world, like, I mean, obviously, like, any injury can happen, but there's a world where, like, if Cleveland and the Knicks are slightly beat up at any point this year, Orlando could swoop in, or Atlanta could swoop in.
I was going to say, Orlando's not even the team I think of, man. I'm really in on this Hawks team. I was just talking about it today on the Zach Gelb show. I think they're the third biggest threat in the East, full stop.
Yeah, it could. I've been wowed when I've watched them this preseason. So either of those teams, I think it's an easy under for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great pick. If I didn't know better, I would say you set this one up for yourself. But you guys, that's neither here nor there. But I definitely agree with you. I think it's probably, if I really was forced to pick, I would actually take Cleveland to win the East. And the reason being is not that I think Cleveland's a better team than New York, but I think New York's got stuff to work out. Like, Cleveland has a whole season under their belt of running their system. All of their players know what they're doing. They're just a finely tuned machine. They had their minutes that were extremely low and well kept last season. Like, they're going to be good to go for the long haul. Especially when some guys bounce back from injuries. Of course they're gonna integrate some guys like Lonzo Ball, but I think they're really great, and they're going to be consistently good. Whereas
integrating Lonzo Ball is not some, it's
and
like,
and that's easy, right? Like, that's
and then they have to have this steak dinner later. Like, they're just so busy.
Yeah, it's like, well, and then they have to figure out what to wear this black tie with. Like, what does it go with? It's like, anything. So yeah, I just think they're going to be really good. But I think at the end of the season, I would take the Knicks to be the better team. Sure. But when we're talking about over-under being the top seed, if I already have a team that I think is likely going to beat them out for the top seed, and you guys mentioned Atlanta, I am extremely high on Orlando. And then there's dark horses that come out of nowhere. We can't ever, just throw dirt on Giannis's grave. Who knows what can happen with some other teams. So all of that considered, I think is a great pick.
Yeah, 2.5 might have been the better line, but I'll take advantage of my own ineptitude. XJ
is not a sponsor or anything, just on some books out there, these Sixers have less profitable odds to be the team that makes the finals out of the East than the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, I just think that's fascinating to weigh with the Eastern Conference this season. Like, that's where we're at, folks. That's what
so open. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up with XJ and Chris talking about Cat's 3-point shooting. Will he actually elevate his 3-point rate under Mike Brown? Find out in just a sec. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel does an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I just love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. That would have been a fun thing to do. Or maybe a torturous thing to do, depending on what side you're rooting for, during Giants Broncos, because there have been 1,602 times, I think the stat was, in NFL history where a team was up by 18 or more in the fourth quarter with 6 or less minutes left. Every single time that team won. If you were following the live lines and you said, hey, I'm going to bet on the Broncos. I know it's crazy. I like the way they're rolling right now. You could have made a boatload of money. Maybe put your kid through college if you put enough down. So it just makes watching football that much more exciting, whether you're a casual fan or love diving to the stats. It is just a game changer for your game day experience. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Yeah. All right. XJ, you have one. Chris, then you have two. XJ, what do you like next?
Oh, I'm so happy this one fell to me. Like, this couldn't be going better for me right now. I mean, I could be completely wrong and this is going terrible, but
0 for 2, bang, bang.
Yeah, exactly. Karl-Anthony Towns over 5.2 3-pointers per game. And that's 3-point attempts, right?
Yes, yeah, 3-point attempts.
Yeah, no, not made. That would
that would be ballsy.
I might have taken the mate. No, I wasn't gonna take the mix. But yeah, 5.2 is just, to me. So something that I think is really interesting is that we look at Karl-Anthony Towns's 3-point attempts last season, and we see it's like kind of down 4.7, but it's actually way down when you look at his minutes per game. So he played 35 minutes, which is the most he's played in the season since 2017, 2018, since he was 22 years old, and also shot 4.7 3-point attempts per game, which is the lowest since 2019. So he played a ton of minutes, and his also his 3-point attempts went down. That is a big flag to me that this is like an outlier. And if we look at his 3-point attempts per 75 possessions, which equalizes it according to that minutes load, we see that Karl-Anthony Towns had 4.9 3-point attempts per 75 possessions, which the previous seasons before that, he had 6.0, 6.1, 5.3, 6.7, 8.1, 5.0, not since he was 22 years old playing center in a different kind of NBA in 2018. He shot 3.7 3-pointers per 75. So this is an outlier season from Karl-Anthony Towns that we just saw. He's going to be playing a ton of 4, and the way that the 4 works in Mike Brown's offense is that the 4 is just a wing, and the wings often end up spotted up in the corner. And for that reason, Karl-Anthony Towns, who seems potentially frustrated with what his role might look like, he'll be pleasantly surprised, I think, to see how many 3-point attempts he gets. And if he's okay with that, I mean, he's going to end up being a spacer in a lot of lineups, and spacers get a lot of 3-pointers up. And so I just don't think there's any way Karl-Anthony Towns comes in at under 5.2 3-point attempts per game. And worst case scenario, I hit 5.2 on the dot, and it's a push. So that's what I'm thinking.
Chris, were you had a similar reaction to me where I actually had the under on it, and XJ's logic was flawless, so I could be off on that. It's more so a bad feeling in my stomach is why I went that way. But what do you think about that one?
I think XJ's logic is flawless. I also, all right, maybe I'll just go, but I do think while I agree with him that the over probably hits this year, maybe 5.3 is where we're at. But like, I would, if, gun in my head, over, sure. But I do think it ignores one factor of this, which is, do we know? And I'm not saying, oh, we don't know, so we're not allowed to talk about anything. I'm just genuinely, honestly curious. Like, do we know how much of this 3-point volume has been the product of a situation where a coach is going, please shoot more, and he just doesn't want to? Like,
that's what I was thinking about earlier. Like, I don't think he wants to take a ton of threes? Maybe?
Not 8. Like, I don't think he wants to be like, now listen, Tom Thibodeau, I think here's the angle on the stats that is most explanatory is under Tom Thibodeau, the one season in New York, he averaged more free throw attempts per game than 3-point attempts per game. That, like, I feel like any ball coach would be like, oh, that's like nonsense to have more 3-point attempts than free throw attempts as a 7-foot skilled, able, versatile monster on offense. But like, you just look at a couple of his recent years in Minnesota, they had Rudy out there and he was shooting 5.3, 5.7. So a 4.9. I think there's something to maybe Cat won't play as many games this season where he's on the fence about playing as he would have under Tibbs. But what does that mean? Even though the sample size is going to be smaller, he'll be healthier for more of it. So maybe he's more willing to run the floor. Maybe he's more willing to use his legs to propel a shot from deep. I don't know how it specifically affects his style of play, but I do think the logic for this is regardless of what Cat wants, there's going to be more offensive possessions, more sets, more actions, more free-for-alls entered into, even if there's no action. Like, there's going to be more going on. So that's going to result in more shot attempts, more assists, more rebounds, just naturally.
Yeah, more possessions plus more time at power forward. You would think that pretty solidly puts him over. He only took 5 in 36 minutes in preseason. We all saw the quote about him questioning what his role in this offense is going to be. Maybe that's something. Maybe that's ultimately nothing. Like, I just have a sinking feeling like that is still going to be an ongoing discussion point throughout the season. Why isn't Cat taking more threes? How do we get him to take more threes? And I'm curious, like the single biggest factor beyond like just the position is the Knicks' ability to drive and spray. And we saw Brunson set Cat up for a corner 3, I believe, in one of the 2 Abu Dhabi games. And Cat took something like 20 corner 3s over the course of last season. Even if just that specific spot is an emphasis for Mike Brown, that could single-handedly push him. So I think it is probably a wise pick. That was totally gut instinct by me. All right, guys, that is it for part 1 of our board bets, but fear not, we're going to get the second part up in just a couple of hours. We wanted to make sure you guys had plenty of content. You wait all summer for the Knicks to play their first game, and the last day somehow feels like it drags on forever. We're hoping we can get you through that. So we are going to have 2 parts to this one. Loaded episode next time out. Some more team-wide predictions. Knicks offensive rating, defensive rating. How many games do they win? How many playoff games do they ultimately win? All of that on our second episode of the day of Locked On Knicks.